Scott, if you want to go.
Yeah, let's jump into it here. I thought overall it was a good weekend for us. We got players who can come in and compete to play right away. Guys are going to start, guys that are, guys going to add good depth. No one's promised anything. They just have to come in and earn it. So with that, I'll take questions.
In the video that the Panthers issued, I think Zavala said he sent you a text?
He did.
Can you tell us about that text that he sent you the night before?
He just sent a text yesterday just checking in to see how things are going. He and Icky are really close. He's a guy that really wanted to be here. We had a really good visit with us. We went back, it's funny, 2 years ago watching tape where he lines up right next to Icky, and they were just road grading people. And they're good friends. He's physical, he's smart, he's tough. He's everything that we want in the offensive line. Scouts liked him. Coach Campen, Coach Kugler, they had strong conviction on him. He's a guy that everybody wanted here. We just had to figure out the value. And then when we took him, guys from across the league were like, wow, that's a great pick. You could tell everyone was trying to keep him under the radar, but he was a guy people knew about.
Had you not moved up, would he have been in consideration at 93?
I'm trying to remember if he's on the board. You could argue that. I don't remember if he was though at the time. But yeah, for the role, probably would have been there.
Tepper and I think Frankie reiterated playing next to Icky again. What does that mean at left guard, and what does that mean for Brady Christensen?
Yeah, we go in and compete. Listen, Brady's earned the right. One of our strengths is O-line. Everybody knows that. So the group that was here last year has done a great job, and Kemp and Kugler have done a great job with those guys. So listen, it's no secret. Everybody knows you need depth at O-line, and you need competition. Obviously, and with Corbett's injury and him going to be missing time at the beginning of the year, it's something Scott and I talked about. We need to find somebody to come in there and compete and find the right mix in the interior. So that'll play itself out, over the next few months and in training camp.
Frank, what is the timeline for both Austin and Brady?
Brady's, I don't want to go into exact timeline. Brady should be good. Obviously Austin's going to be into the season a little bit more, so we'll take that. We'll address that as we get closer with that.
But not to put words in your mouth, it sounds like he will miss some time, regular season time.
Yes, yes, he will miss some regular season time.
Guys, in a bigger picture sort of thing, you look now this whole offseason and you added Bryce Young, Jonathan Mingo, Thielen, Chark, Bird, Hurst. That's a lot to add to the passing game. How important was it to you to upgrade this passing game that was 29th in the league last season?
That was a real emphasis going into this offseason. You want to give a young quarterback or Andy Dalton or Matt Corral plenty of weapons so they can go out there and operate. And, like I said, we started on defense. We built the offensive line. This year we reinforced. We want to keep that a strength, so reinforce that with Zavala. But having weapons, to keep it open for the running back, for the quarterback, that's really important to us.
Frank?
Yeah, I would just echo what Scott said. We're all talking about Bryce and the kind of point guard, distribute the ball type mentality. Listen, in the history of what we've done schematically, you can ask all the skill guys that we've been around. We distribute the ball around. We spread it out. We spread it around. We want to use multiple formations, personnel groups. You can never have enough playmakers. That's a big deal. What I'm super excited about our skill room. Really, really excited about our skill room. When we added to that, what we did in free agency is a big deal. And of course, we got the quarterback we wanted to get the ball and distribute it around, in a way that we think is going to be unique. We think he can become a unique player in this league. So excited about that.
Do you envision Jamie playing more nickel or safety when you guys get him in?
Yeah, first of all, he's just a tough competitor. A little bit more in the chin thing. A heavy hitter in the box a little bit. But listen, I don't want to put him into a box just yet. We want to get to know him even more once he gets here. He's the kind of guy, high character, tough, edgy. Has an edge to him. Great special teams value. So find a role. We talk a lot about finding roles for players, then be a star in your role. So I think this is the kind of guy who's going to come in and compete, and he's going to create a role for himself at some level.
Scott, is there anything that you guys didn't get in this draft, or maybe even going back to free agency, that you could look at over the summer?
I think when we mapped it out, we pretty much checked the boxes of what, as we go into this, what are the remaining needs. Now, you're trying to balance value and where guys are on the board, but I think we checked most of the boxes. You know, one thing, we went through an exercise yesterday, and we're in Frank's office, and he's putting down names and kind of our target names, and we're able to get those names that we wanted. So, you know, we feel really good about where we're at, you know, heading into the season. And the roster's never set, and we'll go throughout the spring, but after the draft, we like this where we're at.
How's having all this extra time now to get a jump on the undrafted guys to start doing your work on those help? Does that help at all, or?
It helps with the organization of it. You know, we're going to pull the coaches in the room. The scouts will be in there. We know the numbers that we need to add at each spot to fill out our 90-man roster. We're probably not going to fill out all the way to 90. If there's not a player that we think is a quality guy for 90, we'll hold off. There's other opportunities. But for the most part, we think there's a lot of depth still on our draft board in that 6th, 7th round and into free agency, and guys always fall through. There's, like I said yesterday, there's a lot of guys in free agency that make teams, so this is a really important time for us.
Scott, how, if at all, would Burns' injury impact your contract talks with him?
I don't see that. We'll get into it. Burns is going to be here. You know, he's one of our leaders, and we'll work through it with his agent.
How do you guys feel about swing tackle right now? Like, who is the guy who would compete for that position at this point?
Well, we have options. Like, we can go out. There's veterans on the street. We'll get into free agency here. We still have a couple linemen on our board, and we'll see how that goes. But, you know, the thing is, there's always a 53-man cut. There's other opportunities. There's players in the XFL. We'll look at every opportunity.
To follow up on what you said about Burns, are you hoping to get that done, like, before you get in the season?
There's no timeline.
Okay.
We'll just start talks. I'll reach out to his agent, and
Okay.
we'll have those talks at some point.
It's kind of a similar topic. Have you made a decision yet on Brown and CJ's 5th year?
I think we're going to talk about that. We should know here. You'll probably hear Monday morning, is my guess.
Well, I'm putting it out today.
Yeah, I want to talk to the players first. You know, I think it's important for it to be communicated with them first before I say anything.
Is there any thought process to maybe getting back into the draft so that way you're not negotiating for players that you like at 6th and 7th round grades?
Honestly, I don't want to give up any more picks right now. If there's someone that's just standing there, we'll talk about it. But I think we're set to get into free agency at this point. I do want to keep you guys here later, though. So maybe.
Yeah, I figured that was.
Frank, you talked about how good you felt about this team, and then you go through, like Scott said, you go through checking names off. I mean, just what do you feel about this team now after the draft, and you know where things are looking for this season?
Feel good in all three, really in all three phases. It was really important to continue to build the foundation, get O-line depth, which we addressed, both in free agency and in the draft. Get the skill players. We've already talked about that. Defensively too, we did the same thing. Both adding in free agency and in the draft, and being very selective and about the kind of players that we're looking for. So, as Scott mentioned, the roster's always continuing to be built. Right? It's never done. So that work is never done. But where we are in the process right now, feel really good. It was especially good to see the guys out on the field last week. As that first brush. So then we get the rookie mini camp coming up, get a look at these guys, on the field. And so, yeah, I mean, it's every day kind of fills in the pieces in your mind of what we're looking for.
Frank, last night you guys drafted DJ. Between him, Etour, Marquise, Barno, the other guys that are here, are you confident there's a starter opposite Brian among that group?
Yes. Yes, we are. And we will very confident in that, think it'll be competitive, right? I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to create competition at every spot. Nothing's a given. When you're a new staff, that's a luxury that you're afforded even more than normal. Everybody knows that we're all on notice, right? Everybody knows that this is a fresh start for everybody. So I think you play off that excitement, you open it up to compete for that spot, and that's what we'll do.
Frank, you were kind of a part of that in '95 as a player when they were building a roster from scratch. Anything you as a player just watching learn from that experience that you can compare to what you're going through right now?
Yeah, really, I think it's what I just said. It's the idea of a fresh start. And I think players are so smart. They understand that you get a new coaching staff in, there's been turnover. This is kind of like a new lease on life for everybody. We're just going to make it competitive at every position. And it's the NFL. That's the way it has to be done.
And how much has Bryce been in contact with you since he left the building yesterday at 5?
Just a little bit, just touched base with him today, just a little bit. But yeah, continue to be excited about that, and we'll get him ramped up here quickly.
That edge position, there are a couple veterans available outside. Is that something y'all would consider?
Yeah, I think we always explore the market out there. It's got to make sense for us. It's got to make sense for them. So, whoever it may be, we'll just always monitor.
Who had the best reaction to a pick this weekend of your scouts and assistant coaches?
Probably camping.
Yeah.
I'd love to play poker with him. He can't hide his emotion. I think he was really excited today, to get Zavala. He loves his guys. He loves that group. Takes a lot of pride in them. The personalities, how they mesh in there, and to add someone like Zavala, he was really excited.
You guys
Couple more
took
guys.
a couple guys that, and that kind of the COVID effect, who were in college 6 years, I think. Did you see a lot of that this year as you on your board, that guys that you normally might not take because of the age, but
Yeah.
you almost had to?
There's guys on the board that were older than some of the guys on our team right now.
Yeah.
And so it's unique. And there's two ways to look at it. I mean, their bodies have had a chance to mature. Maybe they had more reps in college because they get that extra year. I think it's just kind of one of those unique years that way. I see it correcting over the next couple of years. So, but yeah, it was wild. You're like, this guy's 24, this guy's 25. We ran into that a few times.
Scott,
And Frank,
with
I
Corral,
want- go ahead.
So with Corral, obviously you had some injuries at that position in the preseason last year. Does that? What do you say to him, and kind of where do you stand on that going
Yeah,
in?
it's a fresh start for him. Like Coach said, he's got a new opportunity with the new staff. They haven't seen him before. He came in bigger and heavier. Nothing's promised to anyone. We talked about Andy yesterday is the starter right now, but all he can do is control what he can control. Just go out there and compete. Just make the plays, and we'll see where it goes.
Frank, when Ron was here and they drafted Cam, I remember him talking about that he would be forever kind of linked to Cam, and their success would sort of be commingled. Is that sort of how you think this? Is that just the reality of what the situation will be with you and Bryce?
I do think it's the reality. I think we tend to think this is a collaborative thing. You understand, head coach, quarterback is a unique connection. The fact that I played the position, offensive guy. So, I embrace that. That's kind of fun. In fact, I mentioned that to Bryce yesterday. That our relationship as head coach and quarterback has to be strong. Now, I feel that way with all the players, but there is a unique, and then plus play caller quarterback. That's another element of it. So, want to develop that relationship and to be as strong as it can. And certainly, the success or whatever happens, in the coming years, we're all linked together on that, right? Scott and I at the front of that as GM and head coach, but obviously quarterback being a big part of that. It's a big deal. Embrace that challenge and look forward to that, excited about that.
Scott, did you
Joe, we
get
gotta wrap up, so let's get your last
interesting
one.
reactions from any of your peers after the Bryce pick became official?
I think everybody knew at that point. Everybody loved him. There's only one question, but everybody loved the guy, and like just the person, the makeup, the competitor. No one said anything. It was all positive.
Thank you, guys.